Are you new to composing and find yourself wondering what the best equipment to help you getting started is? In this video, I'll break down everything that you need to begin composing in order to help you get your music out into the world. I'm Simon from Composing Academy, the channel devoted to helping beginner composers get started with writing their own music. If you're looking to kickstart your composing journey, be sure to check out my free beginner's guide to writing cinematic music in 5 Easy Steps ebook, a link of which is in the description below. The centerpiece of almost every composer setup these days is a computer. Gone are the days where a composer would use nothing but a piano, pencil and paper. True, there are a select few composers such as John Williams who still write this way, but in today's world, to get your music heard, you need to be producing high quality mock-ups of your pieces, using virtual instruments and sample libraries. These sounds are accessed using a computer with music production software. The best computer for those just starting out is most likely one you already own. If you're a beginner, I wouldn't recommend going out and buying a computer specifically for composing, unless you don't already have one. Both Macs and Windows PCs work great with music software. You'll benefit from having a large amount of RAM though, as this is used a lot by the software, instruments and sample libraries. More RAM enables you to have more instruments loaded and available instantly when you're composing. Try to aim to have at least 8 GB of RAM installed in your machine. If your computer doesn't already have an SSD drive installed, I'd also highly recommend one of these over a traditional hard drive. SSDs are vastly quicker than spinning hard drives, and so this will result in a faster and smoother experience when composing. Once you have a computer up and running, you next need to install your main composing software. There are generally 2 types of software which you can use to compose your music on. The first type is called a DAW, or Digital Audio Workstation. A DAW is software which enables you to actually compose music, and is the place where the virtual instruments and sample libraries you'll use will live. A DAW's main job is to arrange the music you compose onto a musical grid, in order to make it easy to add instruments together to form your piece. DAWs typically allow you to combine MIDI tracks and audio files together into the same piece, enabling you to combine MIDI instruments and sample libraries alongside a live instrument or a vocal. If you have a Mac, then it will come with GarageBand already installed. GarageBand is fantastic as an introduction to the world of making music and is completely free. It comes with a whole host of loops and sounds to help you getting started, as well as being able to host additional virtual instruments and sample libraries. If you're on a Windows PC, then I would recommend Cubase Elements, which is currently available for £85 and comes with a whole host of sounds and loops. It has most of the functions of its big brother Cubase Pro, but at a quarter of the price. Reaper is another alternative with a vast feature set. It doesn't come with any loops and only a few virtual instruments, but you can find free loops and sounds from sites such as musicradar.com. An alternative to a DAW such as Cubase is going the more traditional route of notation software such as Sibelius or Dorico. Notation software enables you to compose using normal music notation, particularly useful if you come from a pencil and paper background. The downside to using notation software is that it's usually harder to work with sounds and sample libraries, so whilst your music will look great on a printed page, it won't necessarily sound as good as it looks. If you have the resources to be able to record your music with live players every time, this may not be a massive deal. But if you'll be relying on using virtual instruments and sample libraries, I would personally recommend using a DAW over notation software for composing. Next, you're going to need a way to actually hear your music. You may think that you can just use the built-in speakers that are in your laptop. The trouble with these is that there'll be a lot of detail and audio frequencies, particularly with the bass side of things, that you just won't hear. Instead, you'll need something that will give you an accurate audio representation of the music you are creating. There are 2 options available: studio monitors or headphones. For beginners, I would recommend going down the headphone route. Studio monitor setups can be quite expensive, and they are only as good as the acoustics in the room you are using. If your room has lots of hard surfaces, the sound will bounce around, reflecting off the walls, giving a different sound to what you're actually hearing. We want to be able to hear our music as accurately as possible, so I believe for beginners, a quality set of studio headphones will do the trick instead. I personally have used the Beyerdynamic DT 770s for around 15 years, and they sound extremely accurate, as well as being comfortable when wearing for long periods of time. A keyboard MIDI controller is also recommended for triggering your virtual instruments and sample libraries. Sure, you could draw in every note with the mouse, but as well as taking a long time, you'd have to do a lot of MIDI editing to give a human-like performance to the samples. As well as the actual keyboard keys, a lot of MIDI controllers also feature programmable knobs and even drum pads, which you can use to enter additional MIDI controller data like volume and modulation. The two controllers which I recommend are Native Instruments Komplete Kontrol M32, currently available for around £100, or Novation's Launchkey Mini, currently on the market for £95. If you're planning on using a MIDI keyboard or recording yourself with a microphone, you'll also need an audio interface. If you plan on using a MIDI keyboard to trigger the sounds and samples in your computer, you'll experience what we call latency. Latency is the amount of time it takes from pressing a key on the keyboard to actually hearing the sound through your headphones or speakers. Without an audio interface, you have to rely on the computer's CPU to process the digital audio. This can sometimes take around 40 or more milliseconds. That maybe doesn't sound a lot, but you definitely hear the delay when playing a keyboard, triggering short staccato sounds. An audio interface helps to reduce the latency, with some reducing the time to around 6 milliseconds. Most audio interfaces also feature mic preamps, meaning you can plug a microphone to record yourself playing an instrument or singing. For beginners, I recommend Focusrite Scarlett 2i2, which is currently available for £138. And finally, as composers, we need some actual sounds to make music with. There is a variety of free virtual instruments and sample libraries available, including Spitfire Audio's Labs and Discover libraries, Project Sam's free Orchestra, and Zebralette, which is made by Yuhi. Check out my video describing my top 5 free virtual instruments in the link above or below in the description. If you're interested in purchasing some more additional samples, one of the best libraries for beginners starting out is Spitfire Audio's Albin 1 sample library. This is an orchestral sample library featuring an extensive collection of instruments and articulations, which Spitfire claim provides all you need to make film music. It's priced at £400, so it's definitely an investment, but one that will pay off, especially with the inspiration it provides when playing with the samples. Okay, so there we are, a breakdown of the equipment you need to start composing. You'll find links to all my recommendations in the description below. As always, if you have enjoyed the video, make sure you subscribe and click the bell to be notified every time I release a new video. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments below as well.